All right, gang. So we're in chapter 16, supporting mobile operating systems. Now, in previous chapters, we focused on the supporting of personal computers. Now, in this chapter, we deviate from that topic quite a bit, and we're discussing operating systems on mobile devices such as smartphones and tablets. As mobile devices become more common, many people use them to surf the web, access email, and manage apps and data. As an IT support technician, you need to know about the operating systems and the hardware used with mobile devices and how to help a user configure and troubleshoot these devices. Because many employees expect to be able to use their mobile devices to access synchronized and edit data on the corporate network, data, settings, and apps stored on mobile devices need to be secured and synchronized to other storage locations. Now, in this chapter, you learn how you can synchronize content on mobile devices to a personal computer or to a storage in the cloud, on the internet. Now, finally, when we're done, at least with chapter 16, you learn about different tools and resources that are available when it comes to troubleshooting mobile operating network systems, or operating systems, I should say. Now, we talk about mobile operating systems. Now, there's three primary operating systems on mobile devices that we see today. Now, the first of those, which is the most popular, is Android. Now, Android's by Google, and it's based on Linux, and it's used on a various variety, all different kinds of phones and tablets. Currently, as I'm recording this, Android is the most popular operating system for smartphones. Nearly 80% of the smartphones sold today use Android. Now, combined with smartphones and tablets, Android holds about 50% of the market. So, 80% of the smartphones use Android, but only 50% of the market is Android. iOS, that's the operating system. It's based on the Mac OS. It's an Apple product, and it's currently used on the iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. Now, almost 20% of the smartphones sold today are made by Apple and use the iOS operating system. Now, about 40% of the smartphones and tablets combined use iOS. What do we have left? We've got Windows Phone. Sometimes it's called WP. And that's a Microsoft product, and it's based on Microsoft Windows. Now, it's used on a variety or various smartphones, but not on tablets. Less than 3% of the smartphones sold today use Windows Phone. And Windows tablets, they use a 32-bit version of the same Windows operating system used on desktop and laptop systems. Now, the remaining shares, there are a variety of different, like Kindle, BlackBerry, Symbian, and Java Micro. So, moving forward, we're focusing on those three, and you need to get to know the devices themselves. Now, there are apps that are associated with Android, and they are Google apps. There are apps associated with, now I should say primarily Google-based apps. Now, we can have other apps running on an Android device, and they're designed specifically for Android. Now, when it comes to iOS, they're built on Apple apps, and we have to have apps designed specifically for that operating system. Now, an Android app may be compatible with an Apple app, but it's not the same app when you get down to the heart of it. It may be called the same thing, but they function different because of the different operating systems. So, depending on where we would acquire our apps, it could be the Apple Store, or it could be from Google, depending on which operating system we're using. Now, Windows, I can go on a Windows phone and connect to Microsoft and download apps from Windows. And any of these devices we can connect to a network much like we would connect to any other computer network using an IP address and such via Wi-Fi. Now we can also connect to a network over our cellular system or cellular network and use that data transfer to perform roughly the same thing. We're just using a different connection. Now we've got different connections we could use. We can use a Bluetooth connection, a Wi-Fi connection, a VPN connection. Okay. We've got our cellular connection as well. And with all these connections, we have to configure our systems to synchronize generally with some external storage location. We don't want to store all our memory or all our data on our mobile device. We traditionally like to store our data in some backup, whether it's the cloud or connect directly to some data storage via a data transfer cable. Now we've got different tools available to troubleshoot our operating systems. We'll talk about those in the chapter itself. It is quite possible to have a virus on any of these operating systems, not as likely on iOS, but as with anything else, the easiest way to prevent any breach with a virus or any other malware is to utilize antivirus or software to protect your system. Now, it's the same concept as protecting the systems that we've been dealing with desktops. Now, when it comes to syncing and using online accounts, we can use third-party syncing apps, and you'll sync the app with the app source, and that will keep your applications updated. We also have the ability to back up and restore these mobile devices, whether it's iOS or Android. We've got the capability to troubleshoot Android devices and find out what it is that's causing the problem, and it works much the same way. We'll just check the performance of the system itself and find out where the issues exist, and then we could go from there to help resolve whatever the issue may be. Okay, so with that said, we'll see you in the next chapter, and that is chapter 17.